likely going to pick their 4 position here. And in the same vein as Elmisha, Widge has been playing pretty much the exact same heroes. He's been playing the Weaver, he's been playing the Rubik. Don't think they go for the Wind here, which is, the same hero we say in that same breath, but I almost wish they could slam a hero like the Clockwork to preempt what Hokori is most likely going to pick, because Hokori are going to pick their 5, and it's either going to be Silencer or Disruptor, and will it be enough to kind of counteract whatever Hokori are going to pick up? Because as soon as those heroes are on the board, then suddenly this Bane is going to feel even weaker, and it's kind of the drawback of first phasing your Bane in that position. You just kind of have to play versus 3 or 4 counters now, and are you going to be able to count an Empyrean to actually make the plays that he's desperately going to look for? And I feel like something in Widge's hero is going to need to alleviate that pressure, but unfortunately you have a Pango. So I don't know. It's a little bit awkward for them now. They could also hide the fact of what they're going to pick up. Maybe go look at look for a hero like the Leshrac, like the Storm Spirit, something for Annihilate that you can just slam down that you're going to be comfortable with regardless, and then hide your draft a little because you do have that second pick. At the same time, though, I think TOOBASED need to get a little bit more tricky in their drafting style because at least with these first 2 picks, everything is a little bit just reacting to what Hokori have put down, and I think now they really need to kind of get that initiative back in the draft.
Do you think at this point there's any realistic possibility of TOOBASED maybe trying to swing that Pangolier back into a supporting role? Maybe play that at the 4 and look for another off lane. I know the pool's already kind of been thinned out, but we were talking about some of the issues with the Pangolier. Maybe taking it out of that core position alleviate some of those concerns in terms of his farming rate? Nope.
Nope. They're double downing here. And of course, they are going to set up something down the road now. This Keeper of the Light is a pretty solid pickup for them, as well as you do have Pango Coddle now. You are going to just constantly be spamming off the waves with that Keeper of the Light and the Pango Q. You're just always going to have that mana to play around with on the map, and it's someone to play with, and it's someone to stack. So we'll see if now later down the line, Boris is going to play one of those bigger heroes who's going to naturally be able to farm. Of course, the ones that come to mind when you talk about Boris are his Ursa, they're his Luna, there's Medusa, but now they just have to play with the setup. This was the safe option, though. If TOOBASED didn't want to slam a core here, they're still keeping their lanes a little bit more blind, but now this Pango is more or less slotted into a core position.
Yeah, no real flexibility to that hero any longer. Meanwhile, for Hokori, bit of a calling card pick there. Gardeck's going to get his Treant Protector, and they pick themselves up the Gyrocopter there as well.
I mean, Hokori, Gardeck just plays this hero every single time he gets the opportunity to. Not to mention, what an easy time for him. Of course, Pango, Coddle, they're very annoying. It's a lot of nuke damage you're going to have to deal with in lane, but you were able to get a natural route versus Pango. I mean, I couldn't be happier if I'm Hokori. At the same time, Pango is great at pushing out waves, but he's not really good at getting those objectives himself. I would love if TOOBASED immediately picked the Lesh right here just to get someone out onto the map to pressure some of these towers. They don't have save on TOOBASED aside from the Keeper of the Light heal, but they need something, I think, to get this game started, because otherwise you're playing versus Gyrocopter. You're on that slight timer where around that 15 to 17 minute mark, he's looking at items like the Ags, the BKB, the Crit Stick, and then suddenly you've got an incredible team fight on Hokori's side where TOOBASED, they're very single target. All you have right now is the roll to try and cause as much chaos as possible. That's where the Treant has already kind of answered you. I do like the PA, of course, very naturally good versus the Mars and both the Rubik and the Treant Protector. Just a nice hero to find kills onto those supports. But now we're looking at that later timing. Now we're looking at Battle Fury. Now we're playing for surviving, while Hokori, they still have this very, very strong early timing where you get 1 item on the Mars, 2 on the Gyrocopter, and then they just run at you and try to take away your map.
Yeah, the tempo game now feels like it favors Hokori quite a bit earlier, quite a bit better than their opponents. That PA, as you said, is still a strong option for them, but you need that build-up time, and the PA is not going to be battle-ready. She's not even really going to be able to contribute in the slightest to trying to keep your opponents at bay. So if you're TOOBASED, by this point, you kind of got to know. Hokori are very likely going to be coming at you early, and you now need some sort of mid-option that can maybe not necessarily just win it straight up, but at least hold Hokori at arm's length until that PA is ready to go.
Yeah, and I wonder, do Hokori just simply go for a hero like the Invoker? Just, we've already seen it so many times already, especially with Hokori. You just pick up the Gyrocopter, usually pair it with the Ogre as well, but I think that's where Gardeck Treant Protector, you're never going to pass it up, especially Gardeck being the captain. He's just going to pick the hero he wants for himself. But they could very easily go for that same buff up strat where they just turn this Drow-copter into a machine that just chunks through your towers. And they do ban out
Hmm.
the Invoker. Like it a lot because there would be that kind of unstoppable push. At the same time, well, that's a fast
That
pick.
did not, yeah,
Okay.
that didn't take long at all. They go for the Void Spirit, so maybe they were considering the Invoker if they were still, or if it were still in the pool, but the second it's out, their backup plan was very much ready, and that Void Spirit is the kind of hero that plays into Hokori's hand a little bit here in terms of trying to push the tempo a little bit. We see that Void Spirit get active pretty early, and TOOBASED on the other side are going to grab the Ember.
Yeah, and I like it a lot. Of course, you look at Hokori for the same reason this PA is really good. These supports are not really safe. It feels like there is going to be that really good jump coming in from two-based. But in terms of control, everything is Valkyrie. It's Valkyrie, Valkyrie, Valkyrie. What we can accomplish in that role is going to be incredibly important because as soon as we're out of that role, Hokori can just run at you. I think it's definitely going to be a game about who's getting the jump on each other, who's actually able to play around their opponent's disables. And of course, if Simply Two Base can start the fight off, they would love to just pick off both Amisho and Gardic. That's what their lineup is adept at. But as soon as they aren't dying, as soon as Vitaly's the one finding those initiations with the Colosseum, things look real ugly for two base because we're in that same situation where there is no save on two base side. Everything is damage. Everything is just them trying to do as much as they can. We've got Nightmare to save anyone who gets initiated on. And will that be enough is kind of the question I'm asking myself. Whereas Hokori, they have a few more safety nets. They've got the spear back. They've got the living armor. They've got the root to get people out of dodge. At least you won the spirit matchup mid. Ember is going to not only outfarm but also outpace this void spirit pretty much every stage of the game. But then we're spirit versus spirit. It's all about going to be those support rotations on the runes, what we're actually able to get done in that mid lane.
Well, we'll see if that Ember can act as that sort of stopgap that we were talking about until, excuse me, until Boris's Phantom Assassin is really fully ready to go, as we are going to be starting with a bit of a pause here. So we have some slight issues. Vitaly will be DCing. I think, yeah, there was a bit of a connection issue on the back end of that draft. So we have the teams, we have the players. They're just about ready to go, but we still have a little bit of a hurdle to get over here. But hopefully Vitaly can get himself back in fairly quickly, and we can get this one underway.
Yeah, we'll have to see because I Annihilate, fantastic player. Of course, standing in for his boys here, still has the two base tag, but Ember's also a hero that is very well known for having damage problems. It's why he's paired up so nicely with the Magnus, just because it gives you that free damage item that you're severely lacking. I think that's where they need to be so tight on two-based with both the Ember and the Pango. They don't really provide all that much damage. If they ever whiff or kind of overcommit and let their opponents escape, then it's one of those games where every successful play on the two-base side is another minute or two for Boris to just farm and look for those items. Can only imagine he's going to go for the Battle Fury in this game. If he goes for the Deso, then I think you're just farming towards this inevitability where you get eclipsed by the Gyrocopter. At the same time, if now ever gets an MKB, it's kind of just lights out for a lot of this game. It's really just going to be tempo based. If you're able to shut down the Drow for even a sliver of this game, then we could see this farm battle heavily favor two base. But that's where, again, you look at the spirits and you feel like that is really going to be the core of the play from both of these sides. Not to mention, Hokori also just have Mars, so Vitaly's always going to get active, especially around that level 6.
Yeah, those are the kind of heroes that he really can do so much on when he's got that sort of dynamic range, as opposed to some issues in the past we've seen with this team, where Vitaly's put on something a little more farming oriented, and it's not that he doesn't farm well, it's just that a lot of the times it feels like you're sort of wasting some of his strength, not putting him immediately into the field. So we'll see when that Mars is ready to go. We'll see if two-base can actually hold the middle lane here with that Ember Spirit and win it out, and see Soul going after the D ward. They did put theirs down first, so as Simply Two Base came over, they were able to spot it out, and Gardic's even going to set up for the deny there as well, just in case someone from Two Base comes back. So nifty little early play. You get your Void Spirit, that little bit of extra gold at the start, which, considering this matchup, I mean, it could matter a little bit. If you get your bottle, 30 seconds, a minute before the Ember Spirit, then that affords you maybe some sort of opening to try and get some damage in.
Yeah, at the very least, even though both teams did smoke up, nobody blocking each other's small camps. Both mid laners do have that available to them. I think it comes back to both teams not really having the best level ones, especially not if they want to skill up the abilities that they want to walk to lane with. So we don't see that same skirmish over the camps that we usually see whenever we have such farm heavy mid laners. But at the same time, just means that there's going to be that level of consistency that sometimes we do see teams have to deal with. But this mid lane, it should be Annihilate favored. Ember, of course, just simply always has that Flame Guard going. You don't have enough magic damage to ever burst it on the Void Spirit side, especially if Annihilate just scales it up, which he very likely will. But that is where you're a little bit more farm-oriented, and we'll have to see how he just plays. But,
Edge? Nope.
oh yeah.
Can't outrun the tree, which I can't believe I said that at any point in the first minute of the game, but technically it was true. Gardic able to walk through the tree line to get the angle and
Oh,
managed to bring down that Caudle for first blood. So, I mean, we talked about how good Gardic was on this hero, how often he plays it. He's already sort of showing off here. And now with the Holy Missile coming in, they're looking for even more damage. They get the slow from the Nature's Grasp as well. And Valkyrie, he may not get away. He tries to go for the shield crash, but he dies in midair. And this safe lane duo started to get aggressive early, and they are winning out.
yeah, and we see so many of these South American squads just as soon as they know their power spike here. And of course, we already know how good both the tree and the gyro are at level 1. Of course, homing missile is just simply the best spell in the game for those early trades. And they get Valkyrie knowing he just commits the shield crash, I think, for 1 CS, and then they turn on him as well. And it's unfortunate because Widge was also just respawning there, but that's where it's great if Widge can hide himself and find those illuminates in the tree lines. But aside from that, he provides no threat for whenever they do try to go onto his fellow laner. And unfortunately for Valkyrie, it's just kind of an unfortunate situation now because he's going to get really zoned hard off these waves. Widge also is going to be taking some of his farm, just as you naturally do with the Keeper of the Light, so he's not going to be nearly as farmed. And when we talk about heroes like the Pango, he wants to be by himself. He wants to get that early level 6 just because of how much stronger it is a minute or two earlier than if he's splitting everything with the Caudle. And unfortunately, Caudle wants XP himself. It's a very hungry lane they've got for themselves on the 2-base side.
Yeah, you see Gardic so frequently stepping out of lane, right? Looking for stacks, looking for pulls, anything of that nature, or even in some instances just backing off for the sake of backing off so that now gets that extra experience. It's something Gardic can afford to do considering he was able to set up for 2 kills in the early stages, but now he's a little bit low on HP, might want to back it up a bit, but he's got the salve to really just get himself back up if he truly needs to. And over on the other side, you see Valkyrie being forced to use a salve of his own, so realistically, nothing is being sacrificed by Gardic that isn't being paid for really in full on the opposing side as well.
Yeah, and we've seen this before. As long as the 5 is the one eating all of this damage, he is okay salving himself. There's no real pressure on now. Maybe once Valkyrie gets a few more levels, they've got some nice plays with the shield crash. Okay.
In forward, he's got a couple of stick charges though, that should keep him safe, but now Gardic maybe wishes he was still holding on to that salve, because your gyro... Is there anything coming out to him? Boots and a wand?
Not
No.
regen.
Yeah. Unless he wants to sit there and charge up wand charges, which I guess he could do. The living armor, though, will come in from Gardic. It's only level 1, so it's not exactly a game changer right now, but this allows now to just sort of fall back. You see him trying to farm up underneath his tower here, so sure, that'll slow up the farming rate a little bit as the Illuminate flies through again, but this is still a pretty fantastic start for the gyro. It's a question now of how aggressive do Valkyrie and Widge really want to get with their opponent under their own tier 1.
Yeah, and they're trying to hit with these Illuminates. It's a little bit easy, especially with the ward that Gardic placed here for him to dodge it out, but the biggest play you can make with these 2 heroes is you force in the wave, you get that creep pressure under gyro, and then you look for a dive. But I think, honestly, now, probably just going to see them back hard off, especially because if he really needs to, he's got a salve over for now, so yeah, and he will just use it.
And meanwhile, up in the top lane, Vitali, well, he's living it up here. He's got the highest last hit count in the game so far, compared to Boris, who honestly is not too far behind him, but in this kind of lane, you would sort of like for your Phantom Assassin to be running away with it as, uh-oh, back down bot. Hold on, Valkyrie. Gonna get himself caught out. That aggressive duo goes to work once again, and as you mentioned earlier, ET, Widge still really has no defensive power on this hero, so your Pango's kind of just left alone.
Yeah, and not just that. Every single time, Gardic has been just pushing out this or blocking that large camp, just making it impossible for Widge to get the wave back. They start that kill with the creep wave all the way down here next to the gyrocopter's tower. So even though you've got the swash, you've got the shield crash, you just get run down, plain and simple. You have to walk so far, and that's also where Widge is unfortunately just not set up enough to help out Valkyrie. I think we're probably going to see Widge, as we already see him kind of rotating around, maybe playing his mid lane or small camp a little bit, but we need to see him either stack or make rotations elsewhere, because he really is struggling. Empyrean.
Yeah, he's on the run here.
Okay.
Slow from the rebuke. Spear comes in, pins to the tree, and I don't think he'll have time. Oh, no, he does get a brain sap off, so it's a little bit of extra health, but I do not believe it'll be enough. Elmisho comes in for that final projectile to get the kill. Of course, that does leave Boris in the lane by himself for 30, 45 seconds there, so it's a nice little boost up for your PA, but it does obviously come at the cost of another kill being given up. And now, what's going on here? Elmisho rotates in to try and help Soul get the rune. He did bottle up that illusion, but doesn't really have the health to actually take this fight. And again, as you said, that flame guard is just really too much for Soul to handle at the moment.
Yeah, it's really not much you can do at the very least, because you do have this illusion rune. You can dodge out some of those spells, so you get to just feel pretty safe for the next few minutes, but that's also where Ember is a very efficient hero. Annihilate if he wants to. He's got another spirit reset. He could just TP back to the well, get his bottle refilled that way, so it's not the end of the world that he doesn't lose an illusion rune. Of course, both of these mid laners want those arcanes, they want those haste runes, but this is where the bully really starts. I mean, you already see him pulling away into Denies a little bit here, but at the same time, we need to see these mid laners rotating pretty soon. Oh, Empyrean, he's playing a little bit top, but a little scary.
Misha was holding on to the telekinesis there, so I think he would have had some sort of way to break up that play, but if you're Empyrean, that's still very nicely done. You push that Rubik out of lane at least for a little while and try to get your PA into really just as strong of a position as possible. Boris, highest net worth on his own side at least, still, well, a little ways behind some of the cores on Hokori, but to a certain extent we expect this, right? It is a slow build-up for the PA, and it's one that really picks up speed as it goes, so you're starting off a little bit slower now. The hope is that she can make her progress towards that Battle Fury in relatively solid time, and then we'll see things sort of start to speed up a little bit more. The question is, can TOOBASED buy that much time? They've given up 4 kills so far. Of course, none of those have come against, I guess, the important heroes. I say with heavy air quotes there. I Annihilate still doing perfectly fine, and the PA hasn't gone down yet. So, casualties on heroes that technically you can afford to lose, but now we need to see with I Annihilate starting to build himself up a little bit more, where does he go to try and make these plays? Because he can't just sit mid against the Void Spirit forever.
Yeah, and at the very least, Annihilate is doing a fantastic job of just bullying his opponent. It's really tempting for the Void Spirit to just go top and make a play with the arena onto that PA, but there really isn't anyone else who can hold mid. If Elmisho tries to sit there, then Annihilate would just simply kill him. So they're almost in lane lock for the time being, and that really heavily favors Boris because he doesn't have anyone to take him out. They need the Void Spirit to get that kill on the top lane. Maybe once Elmisho is closer to that level 6, level 5, in fact, just has more points in the Fade Bolt, we could see him be put under a little bit more pressure, but without the Void, it really is difficult for them to top off that kill, and I think that's where Boris is getting away with a little bit more. But yeah, lane swap, perfect from him.
Send him bot. Maybe they could even get some eyes on Gardic here, because your Treant is alone under the tower. But
Ooh.
gotta be careful of that ward. It's still there in the lane, so Boris would potentially be spotted, and I think they did catch a glimpse of him for a moment. So now the Treant Protector should be playing very much defensively oriented. Keep the lane pushed out. You see him doing exactly that with the grass, but I don't really think he's going to show his face directly in this lane for a little while until he knows that Boris has cleared out.
Unfortunately, you do lose the top tower, though. You weren't able to defend it with Valkyrie. I saw the Coddle TP up there. Widge was trying to get the defense going, but unfortunately the tower had already eaten just a little bit too much damage. That's not even with the card timing. That's just simply them pushing up with the armlet finished on Vitaly and then not having anyone to really sit there and defend it. I almost feel like they could have if Valkyrie was just a little bit further along in his build-up, but it's timings like those that you really kind of end up regretting, and they're looking for Widge.
Misha wants the wrap. They've got that spear stun to set it up, and with the armlet, you know they've got the damage, so Widge has just got to do a little bit of dancing here. Unfortunately, this dance is going to get complicated because the Gyrocopter is coming out from the south, so this would really be a 3v1 into a Coddle who is not level 6, so All they got to do is get the vision, but they actually kind of miss him. The pincer maneuvers come in from the east and the west, but it's a little bit too far down, and Witch is going to be able to get away. That homing missile should not really matter. I don't think Vitaly could get the angle that he wanted, so he's going to try for it. No, he's not. Never mind. Thought about it, backs away once he realizes the stun's wearing off.
Yeah, and now, TOOBASED, they're making some pretty good decisions. They say, we can't kill bottom if we don't have the Ember Spirit, so we're going to bring the fight to him, and now they're very nicely set up here. Unfortunately, the very least, they see the Bane, but I also think that they caught a glimpse of Valkyrie being here as well. That's why Soul is playing so scared. At the same time, though, Vitaly does need to come over here. He needs to be the one sitting in front of this tower. Interesting shield crash from Valkyrie, but okay, they're running him down. Gonna get a...
Grabbing in, breaking it up initially. And now here it comes. Vitaly's going to make his way over. Needs to be a little bit sneaky in this instance, but I think the jig is up. I think they've seen him already, but he does still have the arena, so this is going to get kind of complicated as the Nightmare will be removed. Valkyrie still going for the Rolling Thunder, however, but Gardic is now in. He does have the Overgrowth, so if you're 2-base, you have to watch out for that exact play. Root comes in, connecting onto 2. Valkyrie dropping low. Arena's going to go down into the Spear stun, but they're still looking for this fight. Annihilate comes in with the Sleight of Fist. They're going to be able to drop a couple heroes low, but they can't take anyone out. Soul getting both of those kills, and now the Ember suddenly decides, I don't want to be here anymore. Needs to bail out as he loses most of his backup. And Hokori, I mean, they don't suffer any casualties. You look at the heroes, they are dangerously low on HP, Elmisho and Vitaly in particular, but they have just that little bit of health to survive, and now for the Ember Spirit, that kind of hurts even more, because you were in a much better position than this Void Spirit. All of a sudden, Soul picks up 2 kills, and he is starting to pull it back a little bit.
Yeah, and it's where they bring the fight. Unfortunately, execution-wise, it's just a little bit too clean from Hokori, and that's the big benefit of giving Gardic that bottom lane for such a long time. He gets so many levels to then just TP mid. At the same time as well, Boris isn't able to claim this tower just yet. During that entire time, he's just farming up bottom. He's trying to do the best he can, but now they get to trade away this tower. Gardic still doesn't want to give it to them. He'd be happy trading it away, but with maxed out living armor, it's missed plays like that that also compound, because that mid tower that ended up taking half of his HP and damage is going to be healed up by that 15-minute mark where they're going to look for another move like that. And unfortunately, it's those whiffs that end up putting more and more pressure on the PA that you really would rather have without.
Yeah, and now you look at 2-base, there's 3 heroes in the lane. There was a 4th sort of drifting behind them, so it's a lot of extra time and a lot of extra bodies for a tower that you were supposed to have gotten about a minute or 2 ago with that initial push in. So Gardic, even though he does eventually have to let the tower go, even though he wasn't in a position to actually take that fight, he is wasting some of 2-base time while his own cores farm up on their own side. You see now, he's pretty much done with this Aghanim Scepter. He's really half of a camp away from getting that finished off. So in comparison to that Phantom Assassin, the Gyrocopter is still maintaining a rather sizable lead.
Yeah, and really the most concerning aspect for 2-base is when everything gets brought towards that mid tower. Is their wave clear going to be enough? Are they going to be able to buy enough time with both the Keeper of the Light and the Pango? Because Hokori, they don't have the best entrance onto this mid tower. It's where I disagree a little bit with Vitaly's build-up, not looking for that Blink Dagger. Not immediately, but in the next few items here. He might just swap it up and not go for the early BKB he has in his shift queue. I can only imagine, because doesn't feel like he really needs it, and I think Hokori need a tool like that for them to actually break away and then get started, because they are looking at this timing, and they are going to farm at a much faster speed on now, at least for the time being, but I think Boris has his Battle Fury coming out to him, so every minute is going to be everything for this PA. Empyrean
Got the Nightmare stolen, so Valkyrie, does he really want this fight? This could get complicated, but the reinforcements are coming in. They do want to go for it. There's going to be the Fiend's Grip, keeping Vitaly out of the engagement. Elmisho, meanwhile, is just going to go for the Stolen Nightmare and look to TP out. Can Annihilate stop him? No. But they got the more valuable kill. They go all in on that Mars, and if you're Hokori, taking that fight would have involved now pushing in without really the crit stick for damage, and at the most you would have had 3 heroes there barring any further TPs. So as much as it's unfortunate to lose Vitaly there, at least that's the only casualty. And now the Rubik, he still has a Stolen Nightmare to work with, a maxed out one as well. So you mentioned earlier on they were sort of missing a little bit of a way to get into that fight. That's not exactly a concrete solution, but you have a Nightmare with a little bit of extra cast range from that Keen Optic. Maybe Elmisho can be the one to make plays until Vitaly picks up something a little bit better. But right now,
Oh,
that's a very aggressive push forward from Annihilate. He's going to get hit up by the Overgrowth. They've got the Spear Stun ready to go. Do they have the damage? Yeah, they do. That feels like a bit of a dumb question in hindsight. They were more than ready for that one, and I Annihilate, that's, in the best case scenario, that's a Rubik kill and then you jump out. That really did not seem worthwhile.
yeah, at the very least, they used a lot of spells here. They won't be able to necessarily push immediately into this tower, and if they do, they're going to be coming into that Pangolier role, so the execution is going to be everything for two-based here. They need to get them off of this building. They've got the wave clear to do so, and Hokori might deem it too annoying for them to push in just yet, but at the same time, it's a fantastic buffer kill for them to get. You're always going to see him do that, especially with Gardic. Just blow the Overgrowth, get an Ember kill. You couldn't ask for a better trade.
And yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, they were pushed off of that tower, but the only reason they could even attempt to push into that in the first place is because they were able to find that pickoff. And
Oh,
now they are
smoke
looking for
popped.
Boris. Need the vision, they need the remnant, but what? Okay. Rubik Nightmares' his teammate. That got a little bit weird. That was definitely his, not the Pain's, but maybe lost the vision there or was worried about counter initiation. Either way, they don't get the play. Gardic, though. Ooh. Okay, Gardic's able to TP out there, but now he just goes straight in for the kill, but this is a problem. The Bane comes in with the Fiend's Grip. They need someone to defend. Spear will go. Well, doesn't really do too much, but now the stolen
Oh
Fiend's Grip being
no.
deployed. They're in on to Annihilate, but okay, Almisho gets it canceled. Empyrean had the defensive Nightmare in, but Boris actually just crossed the river. Now they're going to throw down the arena, but yeah, Boris doesn't care about that. Jumping out with the Phantom Strike. Vitali needed to have that spear that little bit sooner for the lockdown, but all things considered, that goes incredibly well for Hokori. They really were in a position where the Gyrocopter could have been picked off. Instead, they find the kill on the Pango and don't lose anything themselves. And does he still... Yep, he still has the stolen Fiend's Grip.
Yeah, and that's the benefit. Of course, it's a really nice reaction from Empyrean to immediately cancel his own grip, stolen by the Rubik, but at the very least, you didn't lose that gyro, and it's the big benefit of this gyrocopter. You are much tankier than a lot of heroes in that same sphere, especially for 17 minutes into the game. You've got 2,000 HP. You really aren't too scared of two-based, who are still looking for a lot of those items. I think you got the Maelstrom finished on Eye Annihilate, so a little bit more damage coming in from the Ember Spirit, but can only imagine that we're going to see a smoke up whenever Almisho has that grip, but Empyrean, unfortunate.
Yeah. And that duo continues to just sort of bully around anyone they can find. Vitali and Almisho on this Rubik Mars duo in particular. We mentioned it during the draft. It's not just the lane where they sort of go to work as they find that pickoff, but there's going to be a counter kill over on the other side of the map as Gardic, not able to get himself away that time, held the Overgrowth so that he'll have it available for the next fight. So, well, if you're 2-base, you trade out position 5 heroes. That's certainly a step in the right direction for them, but still leaves them down 2k and trailing 9-2 in terms of the kill count. So we need to see maneuvers really from some of the bigger cores as the Yule Scepter comes in from Soul, setting up for the Remnant. Vitali wants in for the Spear, connecting with the tree. Good defensive Nightmare from Empyrean, but the Telekinesis is there for the follow-up lockdown. Now comes in with the call down for the kill. And this Ember, well, we're starting to see maybe some ramifications of this decision. The Maelstrom obviously is needed for the damage, but now doesn't have any sort of defensive itemization along the lines of the Yule Scepter to save him from plays like that.
Yeah, and unfortunately, even though you're going to take that kill on Gardic top, you don't have roll for mid, so they get that tower for free, basically. It's where this game is going to become, are you okay with the kill? Can you hold your objectives? And unfortunately for 2-base, they haven't been able to find that advantageous exchange. We're going to see them make a play probably with the Fiend's Grip in the roll-up in another 5 seconds here, but when they expend abilities like that, they have to be so cautious, because what did they actually have to defend that tower once the Ember gets killed? You got a Swash, and you've got one Coddle Blast, and that's really not enough to deal with Hokori at the moment, and now looking for a BKB, once he has that, I mean, your damage is just going to stop. Everything is going to be coming from the PA, and Boris is going for an interesting item build. He's getting the Mantis style, which will allow him to play around that route just a little bit easier, but at the same time, that's not your Deso, it's not your Satanic, and fortunately Empyrean dies in the same spot. Still a ward there. Unfortunate, he went for the D ward. I think that he knew the ward was there before, but getting caught off like that, it's just, again, time that I think 2-base don't really have. They need to wait for another, at least 2 items on that Phantom Assassin before Boris is going to be confident in these fights, and at the same time, I think Hokori are completely comfortable with this waiting game until they've got their big items.
And they've got the pace that they want right now, and Omisho Very well played, right? They get 2 kills with that stolen Fiend's Grip. He trades it out now for the Brain Sap as he was sort of running out of time on the initial steal. But now he's got himself the Ether Lens as well. So Amisho, I mean, Amisho's playing this Rubik like he's Yapsor, to be honest. He is getting a lot more farming priority than you would normally get. I don't know if that's by design or it's just because Hokori have been fighting so much that he's been able to accrue that kind of money, which, you take a look at the net worth, it's not massive, but it's higher than I think you would normally expect. And if he can get this Ags, that would be a pretty massive step forward for them in terms of their utility and teamfight power. But Hokori, well, for right now, gotta wonder if they're going to be looking for another round of fighting, while, as you mentioned, Boris is still uncomfortable going into engagements.
Yeah, and at the very least, this Axon on Misho is super greedy. Not going for items like the Yule Scepter versus Pango and Ember is a little nonsensical, but it gives you that safety when you're playing versus Bane. Because as soon as you see that spell steal used, usually the Bane can go for the grip, knowing how long of a cooldown it is. Ags just stops that full. You really can't mess around anymore at that point, and it's kind of a soft counter, but at the same time, mid Boris.
Boris is going to get hit. Arena into Spear. They jump in with Soul as well. They need a little bit more damage, though. Boris is still not dead. He needs the Phantom Jump. He is going to be able to do so, but Vitaly with the BKB continues to chase, so Empyrean has to hit him up with that Fiend's Grip. Valky now rolling in as well. They're looking for a little bit more damage. Vitaly, though, still not going down. Toggling the armlet, now coming in, dropping down the call down, and Empyrean will fall. TOOBASED have to fall back, but look at Gardic doesn't want to let Boris go. There's no...
Oh.
I was going to say no way, but he pulls the trigger on the overgrowth. He TPs. No, he doesn't. The root comes in, so he will pay for that, but he is more than willing to do so, taking Boris down. That buys enough time now for Soul to actually jump into the fight as well. He can't get the lockdown onto Annihilate, but they do hit up Widge, and they're going to pull him back into the fight. Should be another easy kill for them, and this is just going so poorly for TOOBASED. That was honestly a fantastic play. You get the PA out, you've got the Fiend's Grip onto Vitaly that waits out the whole duration of your BKB, but Armlet toggling's too strong. The Mars lives. Gardic just zeroes in on Boris, chases him literally to the ends of the earth for the kill. And Hokori will take that fight. Now they'll take Roche as well.
Yeah, and it's fantastically played from Valkyrie. He really hit everything he needed to. He tried to keep that chain disable, and okay, Valkyrie.
Into the pit. Roll-up comes in, so he is going to try
Everybody's
and hold.
sweating.
Oh,
Oh,
Dual
no.
Scepter. This is a bit of a problem. Now he's going to pop the BKB. They get the Remnant down. They're going to get the kill. Soul picks up the Aegis. And now, I don't know if you want to be here anymore. Annihilate is going to get picked up, but Boris is coming in looking for the fight. They want to go on to Amisho first, trying for the easier kill, but Annihilate is going to get taken down. And Boris, where does HP go? He is very nearly dead. He's at least going to be able to get help from Widge to find that one kill, and now they're looking for more. They're in onto Now as well. They're going to be able to pick off Vitaly too, as Annihilate just buys back and jumps in, and, well, that's certainly going to make things a little bit more even on the gold front, but at the end of the day, Aegis still does go into the Void Spirit's hands, but if you're TOOBASED, you have to take that. That's really the first fight they've been able to win at all.
Yeah, really good buyback from Annihilate, getting him immediately in there. If he doesn't buy back, I think no one dies on the Hokori side, and they get that reset. A little bit panicky from Hokori. I honestly think that Gyro had time to take that Aegis. Of course, when there's a Pango in your face like that, with the threat of roll getting off, you're going to be a little bit frazzled, but I think if they played a little bit slower there, and Gyro's the one who claims that Aegis, that fight looks really difficult for TOOBASED to actually take after the Gyro would inevitably respawn, but they can keep this going.
Gardic will
They
get
can keep
hit
finding
up.
a pick.
Soul's coming in, though. That's a heavy bit of damage onto Annihilate, but against 4 heroes, they don't really want to go any further. But look at Valkyrie go. He's just going to keep on rolling, and you want to be a little careful on the backside here, but looks like he's going to be able to get away. Chase is brought to an end by the Searing Chains as well, so well, all's well that ends well for TOOBASED there, as Amisho's going to take the Brain Sap once again. But you look at Vitaly, he's pushing forward, trying to find somebody kind of lagging behind a bit, but the Ember was the only one in range, and you did see Annihilate TP out there, so we're starting to see maybe a little bit more confidence from TOOBASED, which is, well, honestly a little bit weird, considering they just gave up Roshan, but maybe now trying to play more aggressively to compensate for that.
Yeah, the name of the game hasn't changed. When Hokori use their abilities, they are weak. They are able to get played on, especially with that roll. And roll is going to be up in another 22 seconds. Can only imagine we're going to see Valkyrie get a little bit more aggressive again. But I think that's where Hokori are also just not playing around. Anyone they get with that Yule setup coming from the Aether Remnant is most likely going to die. So Valkyrie needs to be a little bit careful top. But if he doesn't get found out here, perfectly fine. There is going to be a lot of pressure put onto this tier 2 tower, but having no pressure up here until now is honestly fantastic for two-based, because this is an objective you would have loved to take around that 20-minute card timing. Instead, you're going to have to kind of wait. Gardic is tracking down Valkyrie, though. Okay, gets the roll. Oh,
Roll
stole
stolen.
roll. That's not good.
Valky's a little upset. He is trying to roll after the Rubik, but he doesn't have the damage, and yeah, you're just going to see
Like,
him TP out.
ooh, Gardic
So,
didn't have his ulti. If he did, I think maybe he just goes for the crazy play, knowing him, but still. At the very least, you get the rest of the map. You get that more creep pressure everywhere else. You got 2 lanes pushing in, and Boris is going to have his BKB if he does want to show up to this next fight, so he is able to get items. Honestly, think two-base are completely fine with the way the game has gone for the past 2 or 3 minutes. Oh, they're looking, though.
things have really started to slow down, but now they are going to get jumped in on. Mules comes in. Look at that Nightmare from Imperium. He gets the Fiend's Grip onto the other hero, so I Annihilate with a lot of time, but Almisho rolls in with the Stolen Rolling Thunder, bouncing off of his teammate's arena. They're going to try to take down Annihilate. They do get him. Imperium and Widge end up falling as well, as now sort of rotates in from the south, and, well, it looked like initially that was a potentially fight-saving play from Empyrean. He does all he can, but at the end of the day, all he can is still a position 5 Bane and doesn't have anything to protect himself from that lockdown. So Hokori will take that team fight win, and now is looking for the tower as well. And honestly, yeah, he should be able to get this. There's no glyph on the 2-base side, so he's just going to keep on pushing. Meanwhile, they continue the hunt. Up to the north, they're looking for Valkyrie. Soul has the Invis rune, and they're just going to make the jump. There's going to be the Yules into the Remnant. El Misho comes in with the Fade as well as the Telekinesis. You do pick the Pangolier off. Now you're starting to see two-based in a rough spot. They need to regroup. They've got the BKB up now on that Phantom Assassin. This is your moment. Try to get your abilities back up and avoid some of these pickoffs in the meantime, because this is just constantly keeping them off balance, losing these heroes.
Yeah, and El Misho turns his build completely around, knowing he has the Rolling Thunder and picks up a Blink Dagger. So we're going to see him really play it up a little bit here. They want to set up onto now in the bot lane, but oh, Gardic, he's just so good with the vision, and he's going to blink out if he ever feels like he's going to get caught here. He's just way too smart, and now two-base can't walk up that high ground, so they just have this fortress that unfortunately Hokori are never going to break. Not to mention Vitaly also picked up a Blink Dagger, so you have to be so careful. And really, back to that kill on that Ember Spirit over by that kind of ramp on the Radiant side, both supports are just diving in, trying to get that Remnant away. Every single time we're seeing that Yule setup just being Annihilate's death. He's going to have that BKB and 50 gold, so he's not going to necessarily be in the same dire straits, but that's also where you have that impossible decision to make where, am I going to die if I don't pop my BKB here? If I die with my BKB, that's worst case scenario. So this decision has not gotten any easier. That was with Widge, also with the fresh Ags.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see how they actually get out onto the map here, but this smoke just feels so hollow from two-based. They don't have damage. It feels like without Boris, they can't kill anyone. Unfortunately, Boris doesn't have damage either. And he's looking at that Ag Shard. I think Ag Shard is fantastic. It actually allows you to do that little bit more in team fights, not to mention it does percentage HP damage. But at the same time, look at Hokori's smoke, which feels lethal. It feels like if they find a play anyone on this ward, and they're looking.
They got the silence from Soul. That's going to force out the BKB, but it can't really do
no.
anything about the overgrowth. So Annihilate already dead. They're going to take down Coddle as well, as Widge will be picked off. El Misho still holding onto that stolen Rolling Thunder, was able to just sort of mow enemies down. And yeah, everything we were just talking about with that BKB, whether he wanted to use it, how long do you wait for it? It's a very interesting conversation. Unfortunately, for the Ember, it's a conversation that gets ruined by the fact that there is now a silence out from the Void Spirit. So that decision is out of your hands. If you get silence, you've got to pop the BKB, and well, that means he's just sort of left vulnerable. And now, speaking of vulnerable, Valkyrie faked out the Rolling Thunder initially. With the benefit of hindsight, he probably should have gone for it to get away, but as it stands, Soul locks him down, and Hokori are really just starting to put their mark on this game. 11k net worth lead, and if you're two-based, you are looking still for that sort of big team fight play, but they continue to lose heroes. They continue to have their lineup get staggered here, so they're never able to really group up and look for that fight in the first place.
Yeah, and at the same time, they're losing so much real estate. They're really losing a lot of that control that they should have, and unfortunately, poor Empyrean. I think once Soul decides, it is just going to be his death. Yep.
Quick jump in, Empyrean taken down. Courier picked off as well, had the Void Stone on it. So Valkyrie was hoping to finish himself off a Yule Scepter. Not going to happen for at least 2 more minutes, but they've got other things to worry about right now, because you see they are looking for the push onto the tower. Got to wait for the creep wave, which is lagging behind a bit, but it will arrive before anyone from 2base really even wants to come over here. This is not a tower they could even possibly hope to defend, considering how much control Hokori have. And look at Vitalia. He just checks that little hiding spot just in case. Obviously, there's no one there now, but that is the level of control Hokori feel like they have. They can make a play like that and really not suffer any consequences if it misses.
Yeah, and we'll see if Roche respawns in just a second here. Okay, not the longest respawn timer, but anything that is too close right now is going to feel incredibly difficult because 2base need time. They would love items like the Aghanim Scepter on the Ember, just a little bit more of a buffer. You'd love to see a Lotus Orb on anyone, but unfortunately I don't think there is enough time or gold on the map for them to finish off any of those type of items, but they need one of those casual dispels. I feel like the silence and the root is just way too obnoxious for them to deal with. It's a good smoke here, especially on the ward. Gardic. Oh, you just blink out.
Quick
Oh,
kill onto Gardic would be fantastic. They get it thanks to the crit from Boris, and
yeah, he
okay.
buys.
Yeah, the buyback, the TP, they want this fight. They're going to jump right in. The arena goes down. They've already taken out Widge. They're going to take out the other support as well. And it is time to leave if you're 2-base. But Gardic wants in. He's looking for the overgrowth. Does he commit it? No, he doesn't. So Annihilate's able to get away. But Valkyrie, he's still rolling around in that. He's going to blink out, look for the TP as well, which means Boris is the lone target remaining, and they can't quite catch up. So at least they're able to pull the cores out of there. But that's still going to be Hokori, maybe not necessarily winning the fight, but at least controlling the field, right? They don't get more kills than what they gave up, but you see the results of their kills. They can push the high ground, while 2-base can't really mount a defense.
Yeah. This is the most annoying timing for 2-base to deal with. It's whenever they don't have Glyph, and unfortunately, this is just Rax. You literally can't do anything here. If you commit in, you're doing it without roll, you're doing it really just kind of hopelessly. And Roche is alive, and okay.
Boris, that's
They're
very
looking,
aggressive.
but
He's going to get punished for it. The spear stun comes in, and Boris is dead. Valkyrie tries to come in as well, but Gardic able to hit him up with the overgrowth, locking down multiple heroes. Valkyrie will fall. Empyrean low as well, but the Will-O-Wisp from Widge is going to reset that fight at least a little bit, but at this point, it's a little bit late for the reset. They've already lost the PA. There's no buyback available, although only about 30 gold away from it on Boris. But at this point, that was not even really an opportunity. That was the choice that they made. Now with the PA dead, there's really nothing more for them to do, as Hokori can simply walk away.
yeah, and unfortunately, Hokori are just better without BKBs. All of their heroes are just naturally that much tankier than their opponents. And that's Boris jumping into 4 heroes without his BKB. They really were kind of grasping at straws there to look for a play, some kind of kill on, I assume, the gyrocopter as he was trying to walk out there. But at the same time, it's a huge whiff, and now we're in that eventuality. Now has the MKB. Boris is going to really struggle to ever show his face in these fights. They did what they needed. They found both the Rubik and the Treant Protector at the beginning. That was good from 2-base, but unfortunately, everything has a cost. And now, you don't have any defense on the Roche. They're going to try and get a Will-O-Wisp for the ward.
Wow.
A little bit awkward. Isn't the biggest cooldown in the world, but oh, Boris.
Soul wants in. They get Empyrean. Should be a quick pickoff for them. Yeah, Empyrean taken down, and well, you do have Boris back in. That's the good news. Bad news is Bane's dead with no buyback, so he's going to be on the sidelines for about 35 more seconds, which means Hokori really could look to make the push now. They've got the Aegis in the Gyrocopter's hands. He is holding onto a shard that he hasn't actually activated yet, so we'll see what happens there. Did somebody... Yeah, Annihilate had to BKB to get himself back to base, so BKB down for over a minute, and it just really feels like Hokori don't have too much to worry about right now. You see that with now just standing on the front line. He's got 2 lives to work with, so why should he be worried? As Boris, he and Valkyrie are trying to make a play on the back line here, but they really do need to either go in or back off. Valkyrie is sort of stuck in the middle. They are going to try and make the move, but there's going to be that overgrowth. Boris removing it with a Manta, but he's lost his backup. Valkyrie taken down, Boris fighting alone. Empyrean, though, did respawn, TP's in, looks for the Fiend's Grip, but it's immediately canceled by the silence. And this fight already starting to fall apart here. They're going to need to fall back, but there's not much space left to fall back to. They're inside of their base already, so feels like this is just going to be a second lane of Rax's. Look at that. Soul just continuing to push in, but they will lose Vitali. Boris gets the Fan of Knives down. That's enough to take out the Mars, but now Boris has to actually get away. That may be a little bit more complicated, and he's not going to be able to do it, but the buyback comes in. Boris going all in for this fight. They can't really afford to lose much more. And, oh, friendly telekinesis from Elmisho, keeping now out of the line of fire. He'll take a Stifling Dagger, but Boris is not going to be able to make the jump. And now, if you're two-based, yeah, this is just desperation time. They've smoked up. They've used pretty much all the buybacks they had at their disposal. So you cannot sit back and wait. You have to try and do something. But if they lose this fight, that honestly feels like it's just going to be the end of the game.
Gardic. Nice
Able
play.
to catch him. They do spot
no.
now, but this is a gyrocopter with 2 lives. He's got multiple call downs. Oh man, that just sort of scatters two-based around as they are unwilling to push into that fight. Now with the haste rune, he's trying to turn around. He wants in onto the supports. They thought they were the ones doing the chasing. Instead, they're in some serious trouble. Witch is going to get picked off. Empyrean dropping low as well. Omisho comes in to help pick up that kill. And now Valkyrie is just taking too much damage. Even in the Rolling Thunder. Not dead yet, but now quickly rectifies that. And what is this party on the high ground? That's...
Oh, no.
That's not... No. You don't... It's... Jesus Christ.
TOOBASED. No.
What a way. That's almost like poetic justice of the way this game should end. Hokori in control for so long. They get a rampage into Now's hands. Don't want to gloss over that real fast there, as he was able to get that rampage, but he only gets it because the Ember and the P8 both end up on the high ground and they cliff themselves to end the match. That's... Gee, I don't think I've ever quite seen that before.
He didn't have any remnants. They were really kind of on an island there, but at the same time, that's just the worst rune. It's the only rune that would have allowed Now to do any of that, and unfortunately, TOOBASED just draw the short stick. That's just so sad. What a way to go. At the same time, though, leading up to that, TOOBASED were grasping at straws. They were really running out of time. They, albeit, did defend that top melee racks with their 2 buybacks, but the gyro was just too far gone at that point. He was gonna have a Daedalus if everything did get reset. He had 2 minutes on his Aegis as well, but what a way to go down.
Just, I mean, look, there's losing a game and then there's losing a game like that. That one might hurt that little bit more, but yeah, as you said, ET, it was a loss that they sort of saw coming. So, TOOBASED honestly just get outplayed. Boris does his best, but I think he needed more time, and I Annihilate really never got to be that playmaker because Hokori did play that up-tempo style that we said that they were looking to go for.
Yeah, they just guaranteed the Pango had to get a bad game, and unfortunately, Empyrean also, they had that one moment where they were playing around that mid tower where unfortunately Widge, Empyrean, and I Annihilate all get picked off when the Void still has that Aegis, and it's small plays like that where suddenly it becomes a snowball, as well as Hokori also just playing really well around every single time that TOOBASED had used their abilities. They knew their moment. They knew when to be okay with the death, when to take the ability and then immediately push into those towers, and then it became less about the abilities and about BKBs and Glyph, and Hokori just played more around those forcing plays than I think TOOBASED did, and that's kind of why we saw the game play out the way we did.
That's a solid performance from start to finish. Hokori have now won 3 straight matches against TOOBASED in this event, and looking for that clean sweep. If they could get that 4th victory, they would take this opening series and advance to round 2 of the lower bracket. So we shall see if they carry this momentum forward or if TOOBASED are going to be able to fight their way back into it. But for now, ET and I will be stepping away. We'll be back, however, for the start of the Game 2 draft. So stick around, and we will return shortly.